So
And I mean, Claude's the pretty one. You
know? Oh, my timing is actually changed today, so I don't have a curfew now.
Right. Oh, nice.
Well, fuck. Here we go.
Timing is everything.
Man.
Well, now that's gone.
Which is even better.
Absolutely.
All right. Welcome to Slow News Day. I'm Steve Poikinen.
And I'm Sarah Hall.
We are here highlighting activists, artists, organizers, and all-around agitators who are pushing back against the establishment in this dystopian hellscape we call late-stage capitalism here in the heart of the empire. With us today are two gentlemen who host a show called Breaking Basic. I will let them get into what that's about, but these guys are stripping away through an alchemical process whatever issue or topic that comes to hand, and they are bringing a ton of old information into a new and current light, and we couldn't be more happy to have them on. How the hell are you doing, guys?
Fantastic, brother. So happy to be here.
Well,
it's an honor to be here, brother.
Let's jump into to Breaking Basic. I'm fascinated by what I've seen so far, and yeah, just kind of hop in and let us know what the show's about.
Breaking Basic, I guess it kind of started, if you don't mind me jumping in, Ben, it started as Ben and I just sort of taking over conversations on another show that was hosted by a good friend of all of ours, Lindsay Sharman. And we realized real quickly, I think, in our conversations that we both had a like mindset and we're approaching the same type of information from different directions and ending up at the same conclusions over and over and over again. So it evolved kind of organically out of that. And, you know, being a procrastinator, I think it probably could have took off a little bit sooner, but I love the way things happen organically. And it makes for much better conversations, and it allows the information to come out in a lot more human, palpable way. And it ends up making a lot more sense. And what we've been able to do is hopefully present the information in that sort of light. And it, like you were saying before, it is very different information than what's taught almost anywhere outside of, you know, creepy, dark, occult circles. So we're trying to make it more approachable and take some of the woo out of it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
From my point of view, what one of the things that we try and push that I really enjoy is that we try and break things down to an actual useful level, because one of the biggest problems that we see in the world is we're entering a phase where people are starting to understand that the old paradigm is wrong, and the thing is they don't have a new direction that they have pointed themselves yet. And we personally aren't trying to provide that direction, but what we are trying to provide is a means of understanding the universe for yourself and breaking things down and making it usable in your life so you can pick your own direction.
Yeah, you use the word shade tree mechanics a lot. My people
I was one.
Like, going on this morning, and I said shade tree mechanics 101, knowing that I was getting ready to talk with some alchemists who we had a discussion. I had a discussion with them briefly the other day, and they quickly deferred to the Rumpelstiltskin tale, and I was like, okay, Europe.
And that's exactly what it is when you talk to most of these people about these things. Most of them are on the Manly P. Hall level. And I understand that this is going to offend a lot of that. When I say things like that, it offends a lot of people that follow metaphysics. But what Manly P. Hall has done is read every book written about magic or Gnosticism, and then wrote a book on those books. without ever practicing any of it, nor understanding any of it. And so we have an entire generation of people that are following that order and don't actually get the nuts and bolts of what's going on. And that's a problem.
Absolutely. From my point of view on that, it's, in fact, I just used this quote yesterday. I had a sensei of mine. I used to take Kaju Bujutsu Kwai, which is a kind of form of mixed martial arts. And he used to say, knowledge is not wisdom. I'm not going to give you a belt just because you have the knowledge. And I think that fits into almost every paradigm of life. You can, especially when you're talking about working on yourself, you can know what you need to do. In fact, one of the points that I made last night was, I'm constantly trying to do this internal alchemy on myself, yet here I am drinking beer and smoking cigarettes. So, I'm poisoning the wheat, and yet I'm trying to do this alchemical process, and
doing the show,
that's for everybody.
Trying to keep what is going on personally for you somewhat separate from what's happening on like the mass vibrational scale, which is a slow awakening coming to fruition in speed light time right now.
I think we experience, or at least most of the country experiences, sort of a Manly P. Hall method of getting their information about news and politics and government, and that Manly P. Hall basically is the clip show of words.
Yes,
very much.
And my question always is, like, take last year with the when they had the whole Nazi outcry and, oh my God, Nazis are marching everywhere, blah blah blah. My question always was, look out your window. Do you see? Do you see any Nazis marching? Then what the fuck are you talking about? If the only place you see it is on the TVs, then it probably is bullshit.
Yeah,
so we live in Santa Cruz County where there are actual Nazis, and there have been.
Oh, well, apparently this conversation didn't apply to you.
Some of them are reforming or appearing to reform in their displays of philanthropy, like so many of these.
Like Jason fucking Jesse. I'll call him out for that shit.
Well, I think one of the more important things to understand about that type of thing, calling everyone a Nazi, it becomes a keyword that's used by oppressors, empire, in order to marginalize and co-opt valid movements, right?
Absolutely.
To somebody yesterday, she's like Jack Herrera status OG. And
nice.
She's coming back from a stage of grief, of losing a loved one in life, feeling like not a lot of energy right now. She says, I feel like activism is dead. I'm from up north by where you're from, Ben. And nice. I just don't see the activism that was so alive when we were young. And on the drive home, I'm going, that is all because of like probably a certain amount of censorship and what we are being exposed to via the media that you just talked about, making these people feel marginalized, disconnected, stuff like that.
Well, and humans have a tendency to want to be able to band together in groups in order to fix the world around them. And I think, what's the easiest way to do that? Call X group racist hate mongers, call or Y group crazy social justice warriors, and pit them against each other, and then we control the entire narrative. We've set this portion of the population against this portion of the population, and we're pulling the puppet strings on all of them. And when you're watching the news, when you're especially the mainstream media, that's what you get. It's a constant us versus them versus them, and
it's turned into football.
Yes, very much.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying last night, it's amazing to me. You've got an entire giant crowd that, no matter how stupid, if Trump does, I'm not saying everything he does is stupid. I actually don't mind him so much. I don't think he's like God, Emperor Trump, and everything he does is great. And he's playing 5D chess every time he makes a fuck up, and it's a legitimate fuck up. Oh, it's because he's playing 5D chess and he's doing whatever, jackasses. And I also
ultimately, you break it down to the alchemical point of view, Ben. What's the point of them stirring up those types of them, the royal they, whoever that is, stirring up those kind of emotions in population centers?
Well, because it polarizes it, so it does turn it into this football team thing where people can't stop and recognize, oh yeah, that was his bad. He did screw that one up. You know, or on the flip side of it, on the other side, the liberal lobby right now, like, I would like to see Trump come out and like say, I'm going to ban guns. They'd be toting around M16s within 10 minutes. You know, these people are crazy. You don't even actually stand for anything. You're just against Trump or for Trump.
And that's
the
so
policies are gone.
Fucking maddening. The point is, though, we said at the beginning of onset of our show, you can draw a straight line from the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine to the passing of the Telecom Act in '94 by Bill Clinton, which consolidated the media from over 50 companies into 6. From there to the Patriot Act to the authorization of the NDAA in 2012 when they made propaganda legal.
A straight line of a different color, if you will.
And there's been I realized this the other day that that from 1980 until 2008 and arguably 2016, George H.W. Bush, the head of the CIA, was ostensibly president. So we have, in America, we have been...
Hey, can I amend that?
White House.
Can I amend that?
The fucking CIA.
I don't think old Georgie had as much power. I think Prescott did. Prescott was a beast.
But even if he's lesser than his father, he's got the Central Intelligence Agency apparatus at his beck and call as former director. And he's in the White House from 1980 until 1992, when his blood relative, whom he helped come up to power by funneling fucking cocaine through MENA when he was governor, this guy that he brought up in that arena comes in late to the game, pushes Jerry Brown out of the way, gets the nomination thanks to Ross Perot. Nobody received over 40% of the vote in 1992. Bill Clinton won with like 38 or 39%.
I loved Ross Perot.
Oh man,
there was something about his charts.
Dude, he explained on fucking national TV how the Federal Reserve is jacking everybody. I was like 19 or something like that. I was like, what?
Yeah. He was woking people before it was a thing, but no one was paying attention.
I did. I was like,
he got the SNL treatment too. Remember Dana Carvey did his Ross Perot? Like, those did Tina Fey's bit before fucking Tina Fey was doing comedy. My point, I guess, is this is incredibly relatable in terms of what you guys are doing on your show and how you're doing it. I think that it is vital that we turn the egg, as it were, and start to view things in I guess a non-manly P Hall perspective. I'll take a swing at the guy. I don't give a shit.
Well, exactly. The thing is I like to take and break things down into non-Gnostic terms so people can actually relate. And like when I'm talking to my buddy Claude, he can pick up look through a recipe book and look at a recipe and tell me, oh, this tastes good. No, you're a liar at this point. You can tell me you think it tastes good, But the fact is there's all kinds of things you think are going to be something and they're not. Well, the only way you find out is you have to put things through an entire alchemical process. You have to strip away all the BS and get down to what the real nuts and bolts of things, and then manifest it out for yourself and see whether it was a good idea. You know, I'm a fairly smart guy, and regularly I do things that I was like, oh, that didn't work. That wasn't no good.
And that's probably the easiest way to associate a lot of this stuff to your life is, I love the cooking metaphor, because I can't tell you how many recipes I followed to a T and it ended up tasting like hot garbage. You know, I go back and I make it later. I'm like, well, I'm going to tweak this. I'll put a little more salt, add some paprika, and it ends up edible. Still, I wouldn't make it again, but it was edible. But you apply that same concept to your life, no matter what it is that you're going through. And really, you know, especially if you're going through the same type of situations, whether it's at work or, you know, with family situations, what could I have done differently at this point? How did I polarize this situation? How do I take that situation and flip it just like a magnet, so that instead of, you know, opposites, you've flipped the magnet and it's stuck together. Everything balances at that point, and there's a balance in all situations, and that's part of the concept. The most basic concept of alchemy is trying to find that balance, that center point, and stripping away all of the chaff that caused any kind of derision in the situation, and you're ended up with the perfect spirit and the perfect body, basically, in alchemical terms that we just discussed last night. And you've got a much more beautiful thing, a much more beautiful end product.
The loops.
Good job.
The chaff is the chafe.
The chafe.
Well, chafing is what you want to stay away from.
The chafe is what causes the loofah. Not.
Actually, you know what though? If something chafes, maybe you should keep doing it, because we kind of made this point.
Are we talking about corduroys? Because I mean, I'm glad that them aren't around anymore.
Correction.
Chafing can be a Negredo process, right, Ben?
Yeah, I told you them corduroys weren't worth a shit to wear.
Sometimes in the expanse, when I'm fully fractalized, in the past, I've hit these really weird loops. And as I was just in my bathroom looking at the words I wrote on my mirror in white eyeliner that say pure, before I listened to you talk about breakdown processes earlier, I reflected back on hitting these loops, man. And I'm like, well, I haven't hit one of those lately. Maybe the loops are telling you that something really wasn't working for you at that time. And
Right.
That's kind of like what's happening to us maybe on a more macro right now.
Well, have you ever seen a high power line that got cut?
I've seen one on the ground.
I've seen one spank like this with people
Right.
underneath it, but not break right at that moment.
Right. Well, basically what we have is everything right now, everybody's stuck in etheric, and they aren't grounding any of their thoughts. And as they're doing that, they're basically like in a plant, giving it nutrient lock, where they just keep feeding it the same energy, and it never actually gets to use what was there. And it turns into a lock situation, which turns into just this chaos spin. And it's because, like, that's why anxiety is so prevalent. And here's a cure for anxiety. Literally pick something. I don't care what it is, and go do it. I don't care if you decide to sit down and knit some mittens. Just doing that will cure your anxiety, because you will actually have taken a thought and done something with it.
That's kind of the point of that Jordan Peterson makes, Dr. Jordan Peterson, about simply getting up in the morning and making your damn bed. You know, you fixed one thing that day, and that has ripples throughout the rest of your days. It's a genius statement. It's very simple.
You're taking active participation in doing something with yourself. These
Well,
thoughts don't mean anything. I could cure cancer today, and nobody would care that I said that if I did not actually go get the materials and then manifest the actual cure so somebody could use it.
And that's my biggest problem with, part of the metaphysical community right now, and I think Ben and I both agree on this, is that it's all etheric, it's all love and light, and no one wants, and it's all internal work, and there's no external work going on. And you can draw that same conclusion to Christian communities. Faith without works is dead faith. What is it?
What happened to the
Beautiful.
metaphysical
Thank you.
community at large is that it became monetized. It became a commodity. And
Gurus.
once you turn something into an industry, you're immediately removing the soul from it.
Absolutely.
And so you've got all these people who do who write books on or teach seminars on internal work because they've monetized it and turned it into a selfish process.
Yes.
And that's why there isn't a larger sense of community inside that world, is because they've just, as a focal point, as a consciousness, they've eliminated a sense of community in it by internalizing everything, by making it all just me, my personal growth. Oh no, don't. And you'll hear people tell other people, I'm working on me today. I can't.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge cop out too. I'm working on myself. I need some time alone. Bullshit. Go out and live.
Well, and the fact is, they say grounding, and everybody thinks grounding is relaxing. Grounding does not mean to relax. That's relaxing, and relaxing is a good thing, but it's not grounding. Grounding literally means to take something into the ground.
Yeah.
So you've got to take your idea, put it into the ground. I sent Claude a video. You can look it up. It's my favorite one is this little kid named Max Lohan, and all it's doing is taking and speeding up water. And when it reaches the epitome of its speed in etheric, it snaps into a frozen. So it went from super hot to super. Well, that's grounding, and then the in between is what happens after that. Because now it's going to unfreeze and it's going to slowly get warmer and warmer and warmer, and then it'll end up reaching that point where it was again. But you have to ground it. You have to actually take something to the ground and do something with it so you understand it. You can't explain to me how chocolate pudding tastes if you've never tasted it.
Yeah.
I talk about chocolate before I hear you guys do chocolate in the 6.5. I'm commenting about, you said something about OSHA. I'm all, oh yeah, right after I watched a 10-hour doc, a Rajneesh appeared on the side of the highway and held out his hand with a gift. And I held out my hands and said thank you before I even knew what it was. And he put money in my hand, and I was kind of like, oh, but but it did lift my spirit after the fact. I go, oh, even though it was money. And before I left that Rajneesh, I put dark chocolate peanut butter all over him. And you guys totally covered it in the 6.5. I'm like, this is going to be great this morning. What a beautiful way to spend
all kinds of synchronicities going on.
I think synchronicities are guidestones to life. I feel like you start seeing synchronicities in your life, and this is backed up in all kinds of literature. You're on the right track. Things are lining up, and that's what we were just talking about. It's you start seeing things that are echoing the truths that you've already talked about or experienced in your own life, and because that's the way reality works. It's a giant web.
I definitely
the truth will manifest, the truth will out, as they say.
And that's why there's been an amping up of the division, because if workers decide that they don't have to hate each other because fucking Rachel Maddow told them to, then we're all going to realize that there's really not that many of them. And they haven't made the shock obedience callers yet.
They're talking about it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Amazon already has them.
And again, part of the way they're going to realize this is just by grounding your thoughts. Like, if you just quit letting the TV and everything else decide your decisions for you, if you go outside and start talking to your neighbors and realizing that your neighbors aren't crazy liberals or crazy Trump supporters, like these people don't even exist. This is only on the TVs. Like, you know, like 1 out of 1,000 people is like this. Most of us just want to have a job, you know, provide for our family, live in
feel
peace.
loved, safe, and protected. To have a strong foundation and everything around us with the heartbeat flourish and prosper.
Like, and the way you can tell politics is bullshit is there's so many things on the table right now that the country as a whole would love to see, and the politicians don't touch any of that. Everybody's completely against the war, and they keep trying to shove it down our throats.
Oh, not like that, but they go out and make brand new ones without really telling anybody.
Yeah, I remember when going to war was a big deal.
Absolutely. The president had to go to Congress and ask permission and give good reasons, and it was basically discussed in public.
You know, one of the best examples in my own life of that, and probably one of my woke moments, was during Barack Obama's second election. I grew up in a very liberal Democrat household. You know, they call them in Texas, they call them yellow dog Democrats, just as Democrat as you could possibly get. Always straight down the party line, you know, never, you know, always looking at the talking points and never digging into the information any further than what CNN told you. And if you'll remember, what was it? McCain was running against Obama in the second election.
That was the first.
The first. Oh, right. So Romney. And anyway, I went to I was Republican at that point because I had basically rebelled against what I grew up as, you know. And I had made a list of talking points, and I went to my dad's house, and we were talking about having a heated conversation about politics, which, you know, they say you're not supposed to do that with family, but I was kind of an asshole. So I went in with this list of talking points, and I went down. I started asking him questions, and I said, how do you feel about this, and this? And by the time we got to the bottom of it, I think I had like 20 something questions. And I told him, I looked at him, I said, "Welcome to the Republican Party, Dad." And he goes, "Get out of my freaking house." But that proves the point. You know, you subscribe to these ideals because you're told to subscribe to them, but on the inside, you know, if you're asked a direct question what you feel about something, you're not going to align with what the TV tells you to align with subconsciously.
Well, and it's not just the TV, the parties themselves spend nearly all of their time just gaslighting the fuck out of people.
Yes.
There's, especially when it comes to things like workers' rights and healthcare and shit like that. There's or even how are you gonna pay for it? Nobody ever asks how we're gonna pay $716 billion to the budget they're showing us for the military, let alone the extra fucking $1 trillion plus a year that we throw into a fucking black budget that nobody fucking gets to look at. Congress is only allowed to see 40% of what's in the military's budget.
Yeah. No, for sure. You know, it's those black budgets are ridiculous, you know, and no one even really asked the question, what happened to the $1 trillion that's missing? You know, no one even asks those questions anymore. And I would...
If you ask those questions, you get suicided.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, especially if you're in any sort of, you know, ability to reach people. You know, you start asking questions and you're told what the answer is supposed to be. Quit saying that.
The fact is, though, this
really
group,
expressed in the purge, the social media purge, like 7-9 days ago now.
Well,
that's
purge,
interesting.
Those purges have been happening for a couple of years now, and
Yeah,
they have to happen because otherwise it's getting way too obvious how tiny the group that's controlling this and involved in this is, and that the rest of us don't want any part of it. We don't agree with what you people do on either side, that we just want to live a decent life. We don't want to be at war with other countries. We want to actually produce things in our country and turn our production into a more local thing. So we're not buying everything from China or Hong Kong or Japan.
Forcing
and then
labor.
sending all of our money to Israel. We're all tired of it.
Yeah, one of the most interesting parts of the social media purges to me is if you go and you look at the groups that were purged, they don't really fit a particular left or right or centrist
Right, they're
paradigm.
purging the reasonable people.
Yes.
They want the polarized.
Well, one of my favorite ways to quote unquote troll or meme now is, I'll throw up something that's pro-Trump or something, Pepe the Frog, whatever it is, with some, catchy little phrase on it, and I'll get, 5 or 6 people from my personal, Facebook page or Twitter account or whatever that are extremely right wing. Oh, we love this, yay, yay, yay. And then 5 minutes later, I'll throw up something that's completely antithetical to that. And I'll get a whole nother group of people saying, oh, this is awesome. And then those other 5 people will come in, oh, I thought you were a Republican. Nope.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So, and that's...
I need to mix up my trolling.
Yes, mix it up. And that's the point. You're allowed to believe in more than one thing.
Sometimes
Being a Republican does not mean you have to believe in endless war spending. Being a Democrat doesn't mean you have to believe that everything needs to be completely free. We do live in a capitalist society, but there are caveats to all of that. Nothing is black and white. There are always gray areas.
we have all kinds of trade going on.
Let me make a point here, though, because this is a media narrative that we're trying to undo. The Democrats, to a person, are 100% capitalist. They say it out fucking loud, but the narrative is, Nancy, we're capitalists, and that's that Pelosi is a wild-eyed commie. And
tell us how you really feel, buddy.
To ever be naturally wild-eyed.
I am fully with him. I mean, she is a plague unto humanity.
Yeah.
She's worth $100 million. She does not represent me.
No.
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 And because she's worth 110 million or whatever it is, she is also not a fucking communist. Nancy Pelosi just endorsed.
If she's so fucking giving, why when California fucking came up with the bullet train so people go up and down the coast, and why did that all end up turning into a big old fucking slush deal into Nancy Pelosi's pocket?
Right.
Let me throw this at you. I feel like she may be as communist as it can possibly get, and here's why. Look at any communist or true socialist attempt that's ever been tried in the history of mankind. You always have, a handful of people at the top that are immensely wealthy compared to the rest of society. And they will spend their entire life defending that, saying, oh, we're doing this for your benefit. We're doing this for your benefit. Capitalism's bad. We're everyone for the benefit of everyone except for me. I'm the leader.
The fact is, the same thing happens in capitalist societies too.
Hypocrisy.
Yep.
It happens in capitalist societies also.
Yeah, you can pin communism on that all day, but it's a plutocracy. That's
Have you guys heard the story of Goldberg?
No.
Okay.
Let's hear.
I am an Odinist. Hail Odin. And in our society, the Roman historian Tacitus was amazed to find out that we did not have any kind of a coined money. Okay? So as the story of the runes and Yggdrasil progresses, when we first started out, we were an Urus creature. And an Urus is like a wild ox or a wild berry. Basically, a blind squirrel found a nut. Anybody you just happened along and here's some food, so you ate it. Okay? Well, then eventually you progress into the Fehu. And a Fehu is a cow that you keep, or a tool, or food that you've actually planted and stored and put logical thought into in order for you to have a better future. Okay? Well, then that's how we trade it. Because a Fehu has value. It has value on my farm to me. I can milk my cows. I can do things with them. I can use them to pull things around, whatever. And I could trade them to somebody else. It has to have value to me at home. I use it. Now, Goldberg was something that only came into the picture when Odin and Loki were on this plane, and Loki killed an otter. And then it turned out this otter was a man's son. And so Odin mistakenly offered him a treasure hoard in payment for this lost son, making gold worth the value of a man's life.
Uh-huh.
And so for no other reason, because gold, it was nice to decorate things with and whatnot and had its uses, but it wasn't more valuable than anything else. It didn't have this weird innate value. And so he put that on there, and then Goldberg was allowed into Asgard. And that's what created the fall of Asgard and the fall at Ragnarok. This is why heathen societies did not use gold. This is why when we came over and tried to trade with the natives, we're handing them pieces of paper and little coins, and they're like, what the fuck you want me to do with this? And then you'd hand them like what we consider trinkets, like a watch, and they're like, oh, cool, I can tell time. Neat, yeah, I'll take that. And they're like, hey, that only was worth like a few pennies, and they're like, pennies weren't worth a fucking thing to them.
Shekala.
Because we lived by Fehu. Tribal societies lived by Fehu, and it was the Roman Empire that pushed that on everybody and switched everything. And now you've taken a piece of paper. If tomorrow we decided the dollar was worth zero because the economy collapsed, that paper's not even good to burn. It's not good to wipe your butt with. It's not, it's already been written all over. You can't even use it to write shit on. Like, what are you going to do with those? You
I don't know. I have a lot of fun trolling.
Magical value to something. Now, my cow's worth something no matter what. The economy does this, that, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to go milk my cow.
I agree with you 100%, man, and I dig the story. What the fuck? Okay. Do you have a rebuttal to that, Claude? Do you have a point? I mean,
I don't know that I have a rebuttal, but I can't. You can see that same theme echoed throughout different religions and cultures. However, though, Christianity is the first thing that comes to mind. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It has no value to us. However, there are also conflicting stories in the New Testament for that, and I think that Christian apologists would probably debate me hotly on that topic. But
were you talking about the Beatitudes?
The Beatitudes, specifically, when you start getting into taxation, and I don't believe how do I say this without coming off as just completely horrible? I feel like the vast majority of a lot of Christ's teachings have been co-opted by other ideals. His teachings are a lot more pure than what.
Which all of this ties back to what we started with, where when you monetize information, these type of things.
Yeah, monetization. Yeah, very much. At what point do you say, I've got to have, I worked for this money and it is mine. It's my Fehu. It's a representation of Fehu. But society wants me to define myself based on this. So there's a dichotomy that happens, Am I making this money to define who I am as a person? Or am I making this money to, simply provide for my family?
But that's the nature of Goldberg. That's where that twist came in, that spell. Because you can't do that with Fehu. Fehu's not meant to hoard. If you hoard grain, yes, you were supposed to keep aside 10% of your best so that way you can plant next year, which is where that original tithing came from. But when you do that gold egg and you can store it and keep it. If you did that with grain, that grain would be rotten and useless to anyone. A fehu must be useful to anybody. It's useful to you and anybody else. Gold egg you can store and hoard. That's where that twist
Hoarding is
came
a
from.
sickness. I truly believe that hoarding is a sickness. It's a malady of the soul.
Yes.
So as cash though becomes obsolete and money exists in keystrokes,
Fucking scary.
How much Bitcoin did you guys buy? Just kidding.
0.
I was going to ask you, but I picked it up while you guys were talking that it was going to be goose egg.
I have 83 acres with my own river and my own power. I own everything on my own property. I have 2 milk cows, 2 milk goats. I'm going to conservatively call it 100 chickens. My family will give me a little bit of shit about that. Some ducks, guineas that kill the snakes, turkeys,
I feel like that's
alpacas. We all live symbiotically.
You're a family man too? I noticed the tattoo on your finger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got 6 kids, 4 grandkids.
What?
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that to my wife the other day. She goes, "But Ben's not that old. How is this possible?" I went, "Magic."
Well, the thing is I've never, like when you guys mentioned radio, I don't have TV. When I was, I grew up in a very rural, tiny area, and we got like 1.5, 2 channels, something like that, you know, depending on where somebody was standing with their arm or whatever, you know. So when I went into town, was able to go into town when I was in junior high. The first girl I dated, I'd go over to her house, and her family was really cool. And if I asked before MASH came on, her dad would give me a lift home. If I waited until after MASH came on, then this whole family would just do this dead eye stare. And after MASH, it would play the national anthem, and then it'd go for a minute, and then there'd be snow. And I could get up and get naked and tell them all they were fuckers, and eat their food and smoke a cigarette, and walk out. Nothing I did mattered. And the next morning, it's like even happened.
Wow.
You know, and that's I don't know what you would call it, MK Ultra way back when, right?
Well,
but it's been happening forever.
Okay, here we go.
Is that what the frequency was?
I was like 12. I didn't know anything about any of this, but it scared the shit out of me. I'm like, that's what happens when you watch the TV?
We were getting impressions before it was branded, I think.
Well, before it was talked about in mainstream circles, and I think that's one of, well, I don't get ahead of myself. I want to go back and touch on Ben living out in the country, you guys living out in the country, you know, having your life unattached from all of this material crap that affects everybody else. One of the things Ben and I like to talk about is the reason behind cramming people into apartment buildings in big cities. You know, the push to get everyone out of the country, the push to get people not dependent on themselves, but utterly
put in a little box.
People sleep in a tube in Japan. Have you seen those tubes that look like?
No fucking way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, they've got them in San Francisco now too. But there's a point behind that.
Like some shit off a sci-fi movie, like you know, like what?
Well, the point, I guess, is that, you know, you get people completely non-dependent on themselves and completely and utterly dependent on everything from 5G Wi-Fi to, you know, GMO foods. You're completely, and I'm gonna ring a bell for you here, Ben. But you cut out the root and you cut off the head. You become a zombie. You become utterly and completely dependent on everything else, and that type of person is much easier to control. They will accept whatever they're told because they are simply in survival mode. It's my belief that magic doesn't work, literal magic, you know, not fireball shooting out of your fingers, but mimetic magic. It doesn't work unless the intent is given to you. Look what's all over the television. We've got zombie shows, zombie movies, we've got AI movies. And this has been going on for decades. It's completely ingrained in society now to where that's
even Gnosticism.
Yes, very much. Look at the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's a representation of cutting off the root and cutting off the head. So, we just went through a series on our show, Breaking Basic, about this. Why did they do this, and what does the energetic tree of life actually look like? And so you guys can go look that up if you want. It's very interesting.
This morning I didn't have time, but thanks for covering. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So then you can take it a little more esoterically, and you start looking at the way cities are designed. They're funneling you into these traffic jams, backed up for 30 miles trying to get to work. You're driving 2 hours a day to and from work, taking your quote unquote commute. Commute is one of the most used words now when you live in a big city. How long is your commute? Well, you put people in these situations and it's dead energy. They're sitting in these cars listening to whatever kind of music, or listening to the radio, listening to people talk about nonsense politics and who Miley Cyrus is dating,
getting themselves all worked up like that fucking live wire. Just
that energy, and it has nowhere to go. Now look at the layout and designs of cities, and look where those major arteries in those cities go. It's a focus of fucking horrible energy.
And people understand because they make comments about, oh, weird, isn't it so weird? Computer cities look like computer chips and energy grids and like the inside of pyramids. Get it through your fucking head. There's a reason.
It's revealed intent. It enters the subconscious. It's revealed intent for. I don't want to sound woo, but it's revealed intent for the charging the grid ultimately, because
let's get real. Right now, you can charge your cell phone off your own body. You think they don't have better tech? Anything that they've released to you, they have things that are 100 light years ahead of it. And we have tech you can buy that will charge your cell phone off your body.
Yeah.
I am talking to somebody in NASA right now. He's worked in the military, the public and the private sectors, and over a career that spanned many, many decades. He usually only talks super declassified unless you can get the nerd in him a little excited and he before he thinks. But I can assure you that he would pretty much be going with what you're saying here too. This it's true. It's true. All of it is true. I asked him about Manchurian candidates and receivers, and he said, "Oh, they don't have to do that anymore." I said, "Well, what about the originals like Oswald?" And he was like, "Well, maybe, but these days all they have to do is triangulate a frequency into the mud bucket, And this thing works in mysterious ways. Did you know if you're really far, you probably do, if you're really far away from your car and you need to set the alarm, if you go like this, it'll set it off because it's going boop, boop, boop around in your mud bucket?
Yep.
Why do you think that is?
Because
we have a little receiver right in the middle of your brain called the pineal gland. That is your attachment to the etheric. That is all energetic states. That's what you call the global consciousness. That's universal consciousness.
To lock my car.
Yeah. Well, and if you're using it to lock your car, that's a very simple RF frequency. When you start looking at 5G,
I put peanut butter all over that Rajneesh, man.
Yeah. And what 5G is?
Oh shit.
It's my belief that 5G is a direct tap into.
Oh, I love you. Oh shit.
You guys are refreshing for me too. The love is mutual. Very refreshing. I feel like a camel that's been out in the desert for 40 years with nothing but booze, And I gave it up a while ago because that shit is a really crude high and I'm sick of it.
Oh, I think you could have handled me pre-Christy. Christy's been civilizing me so I can be in front of other humans.
He was a caveman when I first met him. So, grunting.
Yes,
Odin,
pretty
Odin.
much.
Interesting about 5G, and I'm fascinated by 5G. So fucking.
I know very little. I hear it.
I want to hear your thought on that. I do.
Well, there's a lot of thoughts on that. There was a video that was put out by a senator just the other day. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but regarding the 5G rollout in Michigan right now, and he put, and I'd have to look it up, but he put out a bill in Michigan to try to stop the 5G rollout in Michigan. And one of the things to remember is it's not allowed in several countries. The United States, Israel, France, Japan, they're not rolling it out the way they are in the United States. He came out and he was specifically talking about the on the 5G band, what it will do to cell structure. It causes cancers, and and this is all stuff that you hear about a lot in especially alternative medicine circles. But the way he defined it was, one of the main arguments for 5G is that the FCC says that this band is safe. This is in the safe limits, the safe threshold. But his argument against that was that the FCC is packed with ex-telecom employees. So what they've done, if you look on the CDC website, the actual safe level is way down here. So, and that's because the CDC, now I don't trust the CDC as far as I can throw them either. However, you'll see the difference if you look it up, what the FCC says is a safe level of radiation generated by 5G versus what the CDC says versus what the World Health Organization says. It's all different.
Now let's get real about this. How do you prove things in your life? Okay? And this is what Breaking Basic is about. Taking and not taking other people's bullshit. It doesn't matter what I say about 5G, 4G, anything. Now, simple experiment. I fucking had my incubator. I have, as I said, conservatively 100 chickens alone, and then a ton of other birds.
Have you seen Chicken People? It's a documentary.
My buddy showed me about 20 minutes of it when I was at his house. That was really cool.
Oh my God, you have no idea.
And I have like half those birds is the funny part, like the Polish and everything.
You do.
Yeah, because I don't eat birds. I'm a vegetarian, so I get like all the weird ones. I have like every color egg you can imagine. They come right out of the chicken. Purple, red, brown, blue, green.
Cool. Chicken people are cool, man.
Chickens are the shit. Don't get me started on this.
Beautiful.
So I have 2 incubators. One of them I had in the house, and one of them was right next to the Wi-Fi because I have limited plugins. The ones in the house, my incubator holds about like 48 eggs, and I think I had 45 hatch, 40 and 43 live. In the one next to the Wi-Fi, I had 3 hatch. One of them had scissor beak. It's so bad it died. One of them, its one leg was turned around behind it, and the other one was not too bad. It wasn't a thriving chicken, but it didn't have like extreme deformities. So I tried this again. I was like, wow, tried it again. Near identical results. Now, this is an animal that's a very small animal, which is why they test on like rats and things like that, because then generationally, you can see the results on how it passes throughout the generations and through an entire life cycle. And chickens are much smaller, they don't live near as long. This has a much greater effect on them.
Right. So consider what that's doing to your children. One of the points the senator made was he was talking about the blood-brain barrier in children. It's not developed. They have a really soft skull until, just after puberty. I think that your skull gets the strongest right after around 18 to 21. You've got the separation of your skull and it expands as you're growing. Well, that's really soft material as a child is growing up. So if you're putting this device in your child's hand, you're letting him talk on the phone, he's putting that radiation right next to his head. your natural barrier, because there is natural radiation. You have sunspots. You have, you
Yeah.
know,
Crystals, rocks,
exactly.
when let's stop for 1 second. And again, this is a breaking basic moment. When we're talking about vibrations and frequencies, everything on the planet gives off a free frequency and a radiation. That's just its vibration. Now, where the problem comes in is they have spiked this so high to override all natural vibrations so you get a clean signal, and they keep spiking it higher and higher to get above the natural noise that's being caused by other things. And so what you're doing is now you're talking about levels of vibration and radiation that are extraordinarily harmful, where, like Claude said, we do naturally have those. Any kind of crystal, you can take a Geiger counter and put it next to it, and it will read on it.
Yeah.
And this actually in some cases is very helpful for you, because your body is made up of crystals, and basically you're made up of 12 crystals, some metals, and organic matter, basically. Well, those crystals consistently reform, and that's its own frequency. And so when you add things into that, it's either going to help you out and straighten it out, or it's going to cause you problems. Well, it's basically like we're all your body's having a conversation with nature, and some fucker just came in with this loud horn that is louder than anything you've ever heard, and is blaring it right onto your body. Conversation with everything's dead. That's all you are now, is just like standing in front of a speaker at a concert.
Well, one of my favorite metaphors for that as well is not only is it more powerful radiation that's being generated, and we're just engulfed with it all over the world, but it's also in the incorrect frequencies that are causing tumors, or causing birth defects, diseases, etc. So think about a piano. If you play a C chord, and then it's a nice, beautiful, solid chord, and you throw a G sharp into that, and it just becomes a gnarly sound that you don't want to hear. It's completely unnatural. It doesn't fit the natural progression, chord progression. So,
and then on top of that, 5G, they're making that G chord so overwhelmingly loud you can't even hear the other fucking chords. Exactly. Not only is it a discord, it's killing it all.
Is it coming off the smart meters? We're looking to buy the home.
Oh yeah, smart meters are horrifying.
Told my husband I want to pull that off the house and replace it. I quickly explained it was free. He said, "Call him, do it. I don't care." I said,
that's a good idea.
Is 5G coming off of there, do you think?
Oh yeah.
Well, I feel like so consider the way.
Whether it's 5G or not, no matter what, you can take a frequency meter, and you can walk up and long before you're near that thing, it's redlined past what a human is supposed to be. And the fact is I don't understand why in society right now they're like, oh, it's in tolerable levels. Why? When the fuck did it be okay to poison me? Like, oh well, it's not enough to hurt you. Here's just take a cyanide pill once a day. It's intolerable level. What the fuck?
I have a plant that grows on the other side of the wall from the smart meter, and I've often looked up and wondered, those plants usually flourish, like especially in this kind of environment, which is doppled light and kind of humid. It just doesn't leaf out the way that it should.
Right. So consider this. I work in IT, and unfortunately, I'll get out of it one of these days. But the way, so I work in a giant warehouse, and
you're ready for me to not know anything.
We use Wi-Fi repeaters in our warehouse. So basically, you've got a Wi-Fi router, and then you put a repeater out. It picks up that signal, boosts it, enhances it, and sends it out. So I can connect to the Wi-Fi from further away. And consider, I can't prove this, but I'm wondering if those smart meters are designed the way that they're designed in order to repeat those 5G frequencies from the towers. One of the things that you can look at now, no matter, you drive through a big city and you go drive into a neighborhood, you're going to see 5 or 6 Wi-Fi or 5G towers that have just been put up in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now, if you'll remember back when 3G first rolled out, back in the early 2000s, there 3G was powerful. You had pretty good signal in most places, and there was only 2 or 3 towers around the town. Why are we so inundated with this? Why do I need 6 towers in one neighborhood?
This quickly reminds me of a story when my ex-husband was buying his home at the height of the bubble in the market, and it would lose half its value in less than a year. A property bought at 1.6 million. He was approached relentlessly, I think it was by Verizon, to put a cell tower on his 44 acres. They offered him $40,000. We were going through a divorce at the same time we were buying this place, and these people were relentless. Like, hey, you want this $40,000? Right. Almost like we know you need it. Troll riddlers at the gate before we even got our wagons in.
Well, then you're
actually, if you go onto a homesteader's website, this is a hot topic on homesteaders.
We didn't take the money, and it was just like kind of a side decision we made. Like I said, we were going through a divorce, and all this shit wasn't really branded at that time yet, like as it is now in the speed of light. But I look back on that and having this conversation today, I'm very grateful that we didn't put that weird ass tree on the lot for $40,000. We're in a place where we get no reception, so our business is tanked while we're down there.
Wow.
And that's the point, though, right? They design it so that you didn't subscribe, you didn't get their tower, therefore you don't benefit from their horrifying technology, and your business tanks. That's how they weed people out. That they weed you out of the marketplace.
Programmers here, dude. Thank you so much. I texted him this morning. Whoa, dude's a programmer. We're gonna need an army of those. And
I'm on the opposite end of things myself. I'm the village magician. I mean, I hear all the time. I look like Floki, and I live like Floki. I'm a weird fucker out in the middle of nowhere that does. But I'm fully of the opinion that the whole reason that for so many years they've been setting up this dependence on them is we are capable of doing. Look at the Great Pyramids. They have no problem saying, oh, well, they didn't even have that kind of machinery and they were able to do it. And oh yeah, they used like 1 billion Jews to drag it across the desert or something. Like again, and you got this guy that built the Coral Castle in Florida. One little old man is moving 10-ton blocks, and the front door is like 8 tons. You can still walk up, push it with your finger. We are capable of doing everything that a machine is capable of, but they just want us to be completely dependent. People live like the fucking Jetsons now. Every son of a bitch I know, for the most part, live in a box, temperature controlled. They can't handle daytime. They can't handle nighttime. I don't know why I can't sleep, because you've given up your natural body cycle.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Seasonal cycle.
Let's break the basic on that real quick, Ben, and say why. Why do they have people living that way?
Because they need them to lose their root. Have you ever? All you got to do is look at a plant. Everything in this planet that grows on this planet works basically the same. And if you take a plant and you cut out most of its fruit,
I'm going to approach this from a little different direction. One of the coolest things that I see, and we kind of talked about this before, was that being a computer programmer, IT technician, I see a lot of similarities behind the mechanics of why magic works the way it does, the probabilistic nature of the universe, and the way technology works. It's one and the same. So
absolutely.
You brought up a really cool point with the guy that built the Coral Castle, the way the pyramids were built. Yes, we're absolutely capable of this. Christ himself said it, revelation of intent. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain. Yes, it can. They understand this. So they cut off our head, they cut off the root. All they care about is our energy. They don't want us thinking for ourselves, that people like us, they don't want us talking about these things because we make people think. And no, I'm not trying to be a guru. Don't misunderstand me, because I do not like gurus or even the concept of a guru. But I will say grains of truth can be found in everything. Look at why they want people locked into boxes. Why do they want people sleeping in a tube? Why do they want people funneled into highways? They're using that energy in order to create their own Shangri-La, their own pyramids of Giza, whatever it is, their own magnum opus. And what's the easiest way to do that without people thinking for themselves and manifesting their own reality? They cut off the head, cut off the root, focus that energy into certain things.
Too. Facebook asked me what my blood type was back in August.
Oh, no.
What?
No.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not fucking normal.
Why do you need to know my fucking blood type social media application?
It's personal. I don't need to talk about doing the bare minimum of what you're supposed to do in society to like be cool. I don't need to talk to people about that if it's a private. I want to say really quickly again that before anybody that out here might be listening, before you pay to donate your blood to a site like 23andMe, like ask yourself some questions, okay? They can't store the amount of blood that these 8 guys think they're gonna need, right? So you're just like fucking triangulated with your GPS and fucking what your blood type is, just running around, It's like for harvest.
Let me make that even a little bit scarier. The fact is the reason your DNA is the way it is if you do alchemy on a plant.
Star patterns.
We just got done doing alchemy on the plants. Now, all organic matter works the same. The fact is, I could take a knot, lop off the end of your finger and a little bit of your hair, and I could do the same thing you saw me do to those plants. And when I was done, there would be a pile of crystals. Now, that's what sets the structure of how your body is made. So you understand that basically when you give them that DNA, you're basically giving them already right out the gate. They can break that down and look at your specific code and change anything they want at that point. Send the frequency in there because they know what you're made of.
Oh, it's eugenics 101.
Because the rest of it is just organics.
Shade tree mechanics.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so pleased to meet you guys today.
So
me too.
There's been a push that I've noticed in like the last year, maybe a little bit longer, where the people that lean more right are starting to say, okay, well, there is such a thing as climate change and it's bad. So what? And it's because we're overpopulated.
It's all bullshit.
Agenda 21. That's the Georgia Guidestones, man.
Yeah, this is absolute bullshit. Okay.
Well, in my mind, it's a dog whistle for let's genocide the pores.
It is 100%. And the whole thing is the only reason, and this is why I'm not in any of the political parties. They're all full of shit. Every fucking one of them. And that, yes, climate change is going on. But why is climate change happening? It has nothing to do with what we're putting into the air. Nothing to do with it. The fact is throughout history, volcanoes have went off en masse. Where like the entire ring of fire went off and put more carbon in the air than you can shake a stick at, right? And yes, the world heats. Now, what really happened is since the Industrial Revolution, we have killed 80% of the trees on the planet. Now, trees, and we have went on a war with hemp. Okay, both these things take that carbon, and there's a whole bunch of plants that will fix that carbon into the soil, and that is what the plants are using as the basic building blocks of more plants. This is why 100 years ago they had 5 feet of black soil, and then it turned into your other kinds of things, and they were growing vegetables that were like, the guy, you see all these pictures of like old guys with like a ear of corn, it looks like he's holding freaking, and we don't have anything like that anymore because we've literally taken the basic building blocks out of the soil, built the plants that put them there, and then every time we plow up a field, it tears up the entire biosome and releases that carbon into the air. Got to get rid of monoculture and let plants grow. If you see my garden, crazy. I have food in mass everywhere. I have plants everywhere. My
Except
clover
for the
and my
seeds that
beans.
American Spirit sends you with their $20 coupons. Don't plant those seeds like they tell you, kids. They're like, throw these out on the side of the highway. I'm all, what? No. How about no, motherfucker?
Well, and but that's what happens. You made a point
Trees
yesterday,
marked at the
Ben,
bottom
about
of the city
chickens.
right now. I want to mention that too. My driveway is marked. The trees have been tagged by PG&E.
Oh, this applies to you, Ben.
Dude, I gotta get more water. Can I?
Yeah. Santa
Excuse me, gentlemen. I will be right back.
Absolutely.
Cruz
Do
County.
you want anything?
I'm good. Santa Cruz County is a test ground right now for a pilot program by PG&E for fire prevention, and 10 feet off of a road, they're allowed to take whatever's there.
Bullshit. I own that.
Not bullshit. The
Are they using eminent domain for that?
first tree to go was an old growth oak in a cemetery behind Dominican Hospital, and the residents fought it for months and months and months and months and months and months. And in the name of safety, this old growth oak had to go. So they've got all these trees here tagged. I have looked for who gets the logging contracts or who gets the money. It's not been announced. Nobody knows where the money's going off of however many billions of feet of millable wood that they're just taking in the name of fire. And if Santa Cruz doesn't burn next summer, they're going to call it a successful program and implement it statewide.
Well,
so we can assume that next summer we're not going to have any random burns.
I'm gonna guess that we will be spared from fire damage next summer.
Hey, you know this is about to be a wet ass winter. You fucking know it's coming.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Well,
park and all that.
I honestly don't know if it'll be wet here. When it's typically when it seasonally has been supposed to be raining, it's all pushed a little bit north of us for the last couple of seasons. We're missing. We had one really wet winter 2 winters ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really wet, brother? I live right next to Shasta. They got 19 feet 6 inches in 3 days. My river that runs through my land raised 15 fucking feet.
We're still fixing one of the 3 roads that leads into town.
Yeah, that was
one of them.
I had to dig. I live on top of a mountain, and I still had to trench my property to get the water to drain.
Yeah. It was nuts. But yeah, so that's the gig with the trees being tagged is this pilot program.
So they think they can just come in and do whatever on anybody's fucking land.
They did a test run down in the heart of Santa Cruz.
I did.
Okay, great.
Yeah. About the oak, yeah. But yeah, they can. Yeah, if they're tagged, they're gone.
See, and like I said, the thing is
I can't find. I don't know where the money's going. Where the contracts.
I do know how they look at trees and the dollar value that's assigned, though. That would look.
Well, the whole thing is also when you get rid of trees is okay. So Victor Schauberger, he figured out. He was the first one that basically wrote down and figured out, although nobody ever knows who he is. He is an expert on water, and he just watched it in nature. And there was this spring that had existed for the longest time, and I believe there was a church or an abbey or some such thing in front of it. When they removed that spring dried up. Okay? So he went and had it rebuilt. The spring came back. The trees keep the water level up. They're trying to get rid of all the freaking water for everybody, and they're removing all that carbon and not able to go back in the soil. we've got carbonless soil that's dry, and look at California everywhere. Red baked clay soil.
I've been watching the redwood tops turn brown for about 10 years now, just wondering why doesn't anybody else fucking notice this shit?
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the thing to remember with all of this is that the powers that be are fucking genius at playing the slow game.
Yeah.
They have nothing but time. You know, these types of conversations have been happening since probably the early 1900s. They don't care. They have nothing but time. What they care about is the fulfillment of whatever their Agenda 21 or Georgia Guidestones or whatever it is. They want people utterly and completely dependent on someone else for their basic staples of life. That includes whether it's a shade tree, quality of air or water, or food.
Shade
So if
true, man.
If we're going to fight against it, the best way to do this, and I love the Lord of the Rings analogy, Frodo couldn't use the ring himself, but he could hide in the ring's power. So simply getting this type of information out, getting people talking about these things, and questioning why are those trees tagged? Why are they uprooting old trees that have been there for eons? Why is the spring disappearing? Why are these rivers being dammed up? There's always a more, I don't know if I want to call it sinister, maybe esoteric reason behind all of this. And I believe it all comes back down to what we were talking about earlier with funneling energy. They don't want Ben living out on his farm. They don't want you guys living out in the middle of nowhere. You're antithetical to the cause.
We are basically useless in their opinion, because
Exactly.
anything that's useful serves them.
We're getting pushed out with tech fucking millionaires. This place is being gentrified over the last 13 years. An article came out in Holmes Magazine in like 2005, and it just fucking blew up the spot, dude. It blew up the spot. And fucking
Google Waze and Maps really changed the way that the face of our community forever and ever. Amen too.
And we're like an hour and 20 minutes away from Palo Alto, where Google and Facebook and shit.
They ride by in their $100,000 cars. They get rolled down the window.
And basically, they've turned country into the suburbs. I've got one neighbor like that. Pisses me off so bad. They'll try and tell me things, and I'm like, you need to go move into a fucking owners association. Get the fuck out of the country. You're not living on a farm just because you got 2 hay burners out there in the field that you've never ridden once in the entire time I've lived here. Get the fuck out of here. You're a rich asshole who had too much money and wanted to live out and be country.
Yeah, no doubt. I tell you what, one of my things that I'm looking forward to, man, is, so my wife and I, we live in Austin, and you're just surrounded by, lost in a sea of people, you know, and no one's ever in a good mood, nothing like that. Well, her mom.
I had to pee real quick.
My wife's mom lives out in the country. She's got, I think, 200 acres or something in South Texas. I am looking forward to the day that we get to move out there, you know, whether we live in a trailer, build a house, whatever it is. I'm not a rich man, but I just want to move out there and get away from all this freaking dead energy, this horrifying energy that's just surrounding us all the time. And, you know, every time we go out there, it's just, you can feel it's a palpable difference of simply the air that's around you than it is when you're living in this big city. You know, it's an instant weight off. It's I don't know how else to quantify it. You feel different. You know, you look up and you see actual stars and constellations. You can see the Milky Way galaxy. Ben made a point last night that, you know, the power went off in Los Angeles and they had people calling 911 because there was weird stuff in the sky. It was the Milky Way galaxy they were seeing. They had never seen it before. Oh my gosh, you know, and that's, you know, I step out on my back porch at night and I look to the south toward the city, which that's the direction of my back porch, and the sky is just lit up 24 hours a day. You know, you can't go outside at night and it's dark. You know, there's always light there.
Speaking of light, have either of you heard of a gentleman named Obi Kaufman?
Obi Kaufman. I may have heard the name.
He wrote this book. It's called California Field Atlas.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
He covers topography, geology, four-legged and winged things. He does waterways. He's done all of the watercolors for this book. He was supposed to do a book signing the night that one of my jobs closed down, so I didn't get to do it. But nevertheless, the book went on to the NorCal bestsellers list, and he was invited by his publisher to like crank out 3 more books. And I think he's gonna drop one here pretty quick. We were hoping to maybe get him on the show. My hub said it would most likely be a go. But I thought he would be somebody interesting for in the time of such darkness. I've seen this man speak on NPR, and his delivery is so smooth and clean and relatable. And it's remarkable to me because I know how much seething rage a man who has walked from border to border of California in his lifetime must feel.
Right.
You know, so his system of bringing it forth, quadrupled by his knowledge, his painting skills, and everything. And you being who you are out there where you live on your farm, and this guy's the opposite of that neighbor. And I thought that might be interesting for you.
Yeah. No, I looked it up and screenshotted it. I am absolutely interested in that. You know, this is something that I've been hammering on all night. And it was something that was from yesterday also. If you don't go live the experience, you know, you are never going to understand. You're going to be the manly P. Hall. I can read, we can take it back to mechanics. You know, that shade tree mechanic, he might not have known how the fancy names for everything and might not have known about what kind of shop equipment stuff. But with a fucking crescent wrench and a vice grip and some duct tape, that guy knew how to rebuild a damn engine in a parking lot underneath the tree in an afternoon. You know, he didn't need all that fancy shit because he understood it. He'd taken and stripped it down to the basic, the bare roots of it. You know, and that kind of thing is just gone with people. They don't actually do that. They just stick on this esoteric, and everybody wants these gurus that say something enlightened, but they don't want to actually get in and live it and feel it. You know,
that's not to say that you shouldn't have, you know, if you're a chef, you know, use a recipe as a guide, but figure it out for yourself. Find the truth of it for yourself. Maybe you don't like cilantro, so don't put the cilantro in there. You know,
exactly.
False idols and I used to say something that I feel is kind of arrogant, like, shit, man. I felt like I used to say, I don't need the tools. I'm not wearing a black hood out here. My circle is perpetually cast.
That can be true to an extent because you do have, you know, that energy around you that you use. Your circle is perpetually cast. However, there's something visual as well. We're visual people. That's a part of our 5 senses, 6 senses.
See, and here's the thing. So magically, what you need to understand, what these people, they don't really understand is when it's all ether, you've got 3 minds, basically. You, the person that I'm talking to and seeing right now, is the Vesica Pisces of a dense and a chaotic mind. Now, when everything is about intention and thought, you haven't spoke to your dense mind yet. So in your dense mind is where your power comes from. It's, you know, a thought doesn't have any weight. It doesn't have anything. Like I said, I could come up with the cure for cancer right now. And would it mean a fucking thing to any of you? No, not even a little bit. You'd expect me to go put some materials together and go cure a motherfucker, and then you'd be impressed. You know? Tell that it don't mean shit.
Then you take it orders of magnitude deeper than that. Everything has seasons, like we were talking about yesterday, Ben.
I love the seasons when you got to that because I'm really feeling it on the approach of All Hallows Eve. Also feeling it is Brookdale Lodge, where I just saw the most amazing display of orb energy I've ever seen in my life.
Did you see that?
Wow.
Oh yeah, dude, I saw that. That's incredible.
I witnessed that myself a couple weeks prior, but I had to credit it. I know it's a hot spot and a bed, and so I knew walking in, my mind would want to see all kinds of things. When I transitioned from dark to light, I did see the orbs like right in the transition, and I just said that was the lighting. But like a week and a half ago, they had a wedding in there. Somebody went into that particular chamber of the Brookdale Lodge, and those things were just like blooming out of the ground, like you saw.
So I have to ask you, did you feel anything? Was there anything in the air palpable that you, like an energy or anything like that, or was it all just a visual thing that you could see on the camera?
For me personally, I was not. I have all this stuff in my mind. My friend's daughter played one of in the Ghost Hunter stories. My friend's daughter played the little girl that perished in the creek or was in the pool. So I have all this preconceived stuff. It's really hard for me to go in there and say that I would feel something because my mind already has this idea of what's going on in there. My friend played the little girl. I know the history of the place.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. The lighting was very dim, and my feelings were of just reverence and reflection. Maybe not so much like what kind of energy am I feeling, because it's a doorway. And I would expect like a lot of different kinds of energy to come through. And I'm not like laying myself like wide open out here.
Right.
Trying to. You know, I use my thing to like lock my car and stuff because the fluoride rendered it. Like that's all good.
You figure you're knocking some of the fluoride off, anyways.
Just beat the crust off that. Yeah, you'll be fine, kid.
I'm gonna have to try that, go a block away from my truck and hold it under my chin, see if.
My piece of shit truck don't even got that. I got like a freaking mid '90s, basic Ranger.
Great, those are great trucks, man.
Yeah, it runs good, gets me around, hauls hay for me and whatnot. I'm happy.
You're talking about the orbs and the energy in there.
About seasons before we went off on that, and that's how we got there.
Well, the seasons in all things, to back up what Ben was saying, in the metaphysical communities, you'll hear, we're going to manifest this. I'm manifesting this in my life. How are you manifesting it, motherfucker? Come on.
Don't get any on me. Like,
one of the
one
of the funny things that people do, you'll see everyone drawing sigils. We're drawing sigils. It's all mental. It's all etheric. They're not actually putting the work in on their lives. And I think that's the point. You are an energetic being, but like Ben was saying, you are the Vesica Pisces. You have your spirit and you have your root. In the middle, you have 10 digits. You have 2 legs. You have 2 feet. You have a mind to think of what you're going to do, and you have a body to manifest what you're going to do. You have the ability to use energy and the dents to manifest this creation or this change in your life, and that's magic. That's what magic really is. It's not shooting fireballs out of a wand, and because that's maybe it can be, but that's not the way reality works.
When I began lucid dreaming, I started as a young child, Reader's Digest version, like Greatest American Hero, would run, trip, fall. A lot of anxiety. I began to fly and glide and stuff.
Now, lucid dreaming is a little different, out of body experiences, things like that. That's a fully etheric thing that you're experiencing there, and it is completely natural. I believe that's what
lucid dreaming is very powerful.
Well,
very powerful stuff.
I think it's all related, whether you're doing remote viewing or having an out-of-body experience, astral travel. I think that's really all the same effect, and it's all etheric. You're able to see, whatever it is on the.
I think that when you dream, typically you're more now out of bodies. Absolutely all etheric, but I think when you're dreaming, you dream more. That's basically you talking to your subconscious. That's why things don't necessarily make sense. Because it's more about the feeling of things. And when if you can lucid dream, you're basically able to talk right to your subconscious. Right. Work on that right there.
And one of the things to remember about that, you'll hear about dream interpretation all the time. This person can interpret dreams. Oh, I dreamed about a giraffe. What does that mean? I dreamed about a snake.
About your dreams unless somebody's having sex or I'm in them.
Right. Well, but the way that the universe works around you, everything is mimetics, everything is visual, everything is metaphor. So
Absolutely.
as you're dreaming,
because your dense mind doesn't speak in words like your etheric mind. It speaks in feelings and stuff.
right, you may think that you're thinking in English, but you're not thinking in English. A word that you're thinking of is actually just a metaphor for something else, and you're building that metaphor in your mind.
So I
If you're
made
if you're writing a novel,
I
you're
would make
building that metaphor in your
here
mind.
before the flying would begin in the dream. I had put a note on my bathroom mirror or my refrigerator that says, "Am I dreaming?" Every day I would cycle through asking
Yes.
myself that like 20 times. Wake up in the dream, am I dreaming? Ball of fire. And then, boom, I'd go straight up. And then from there, I could go from fucking here. And it went from flying like a befuddled bird to just mainline astral projection.
And you built that subconscious link to metaphor in your mind to say, am I asleep or am I awake? So you've built that link between the subconscious and the physical. At that point, you're able to subconsciously ask yourself, am I dreaming? Am I in a dream state? And when you're in a fully dream state, you're in a completely different mental state, which gives you the ability to access, what do they call it, the akashic, or the ether. And that's definitely a skill that everybody can learn. I pinch myself every day, like 30 times a day, just to see if I'm awake. And I've caught myself doing that in my sleep. I'll wake up and, damn, my arm hurts. Quit pinching yourself. But that's absolutely necessary. You take control of the other, take control of the physical.
Did you go somewhere? So basically out the gate after the fireball, basically, so you were on top of it. You were on top of a fucking explosion of energy, basically, and that propelled you. But then at some point, you stabilized and was able to use that.
Yeah, and then a black bird flew up from underneath me. I saw a flash of blinding white light reflected in the breast of this black bird as it launched even higher. And then UFOs came over the hill, and I saw them like through the windows. I've been in cities when martial law. I have to get out of the city right now and astral project out of the city. The very, very first time I got off the ground and went super high without fear, I ran and jumped off a cliff in the dream like you would see in Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. There was lightning coming down into a valley that had a stream so far below it looked like a hair. And I went up towards the lightning and over the clouds and into the sunlight and sat on top of that and went, wow, it's pretty fucking cool up here.
Yeah, dude, your fucking subconscious understands how to use magic. It's trying to tell you. It's trying to explain it to your brain.
I was a teenager at the time this was going on, or a preteen, man. And then the flying would continue and the astral projection would get stronger and stronger into my 20s. And then I broke a chain somewhere. And somebody I met when I was 14, I said, what does it mean when the power lines ground my flight? He said, Jesus Christ, kid, it's time for you to take a vacation.
You hit on something there. You said you were doing this when you were a child, a preteen. And one of my favorite quotes from Pink Floyd is, when I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse. I turned to look, but it was gone. And I think that there's a lot of truth in that, because most everybody you talk to is going to have some weird experience, some weird thing or vague memory of something like that when they were a kid. I know I do. I know Ben does. And most every child will. And, we draw this back to something we were talking about earlier in the conversation. Steve had brought up the MK Ultra program. And I think you brought that up. And, Manchurian candidates, child grooming. Children really do. Even Christ says, come to me as little children. That's revelation of intent. Children do have a greater connection, I guess, to the source, to the ether, to whatever energetic state.
They haven't been untaught yet.
Yeah. You'll when my son was real little, I would catch him laughing at things that weren't there. Why are you laughing, kiddo? You know, who are you playing with right now? And we all go through that stage. You ask any parent, they'll tell you, yeah, sometimes they'll do just bizarre things, and you'll get crazy, stories of, children walking up and saying,
Yeah.
oh yeah, the old man sitting in the corner, things like that. Their connection is a lot closer. And maybe it's them literally being closer to, being born, whatever you want to call it. But that's also the point of being born again, right? Odin sat on the tree for 9 days. Christ tells us that we need to be born again. Christ was resurrected. What does that mean? That means finding your way back to that energetic source, that connection to the ether, that the ability to see beyond the veil is one of the favorite things to say in esoteric communities. But ultimately, that's what they're talking about, right? But how do you do that? As you're an adult, you become so enamored with material things, going to work 8 to 5, and then they've got us sitting under fluorescent lights all day and staring at computer screens, and then stuck in a car for 2 hours. It becomes, they don't want you finding that connection again. And I think goes back to, Frodo, don't use the ring.
So I thought about its power. I was reborn this morning, recently, getting married again recently. I gave up a name. I gave up a name that I had for a long time. And it occurred to me this thing. I love seeing you guys smile. But I thought about how I became Sarah Hall. And at first, that was different to me. I'd been Sarah Nobles for a really long time. That wasn't a family name either. It was something I did. Well, I'm just not going to do that story right now. But being reborn, I thought about how I changed my name, how we become, on a cellular level, a completely different person every 7 years.
Yeah.
So when you say I'm a different person than I was then, like, I mean that. I was a completely different person. And at first, when I gave up Hall, I did so, or Nobles rather, I did so kind of reluctantly. And this morning, when I was shortly after I was awake and having coffee and listening to your show, I'm like, I have been reborn as Sarah Hall, and I love who this person is becoming. And I believe that child is inside of all of us, that it doesn't really die, that it just kind of gets coated, in crusty water.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we get taught by our parents, by society, in every way to conform to this thing that society decided. And a society has become very unnatural. So you look at it, people want no germs, no dirt, everything's got to be spotlessly clean. They can't take a temperature variation. There's artificial light around them all the time. I know motherfuckers that want to live at 68 degrees in the summer and 72 in the winter, right. Cranking that thing up. Like, what? You just have to flout nature? They've completely disconnected in every way, shape, and form.
Well, and I think taking it back to an alchemical stance, Ben, I think that's part of the point of doing that personal alchemy on yourself. It's burning away all that chaff, right? Your Negredo process. Why do I want to be under this artificial light? I'm cut that out. That's part of a Negredo. I'm going to accept the natural temperatures that the earth is giving me. That's part of the Negredo process. I'm going to get rid of this, horrible habit that I've got in my life. That's Negredo. And that's all cutting out. You're doing alchemy on yourself, and it's all physical alchemy. It's all things that are inhibiting your ability to see your true self, which is the point of being born again, right? What we ultimately did, or what Ben ultimately did rather, in the plant alchemy process was tearing down the body completely to its oils, tearing down the spirit completely to its salt crystals, and then mixing them back together to make the one pure thing that actually is that plant. Everything on the plant, the flowers, the leaves, the veins going up, all the pretty colors, That's not actually the plant. That's aesthetically pleasing stuff that the plant has built into.
That's literally just carbon, and you can do that same experiment on any organic matter and find out the same thing.
Right. And that's ultimately the point of yourself too. Your hair, your makeup, the clothes you wear, the car you drive, the money in your bank account, the whatever it is that you're attached to in your life, that's all that superfluous stuff. That's that pretty flower that you've cultivated in your life, but ultimately that flower withers and dies in the seasons, right? To take it back to seasons. Certain times of the year, you're a better person than you are another time of the year. That's natural alchemy. You can force those concepts into your life, and that's what we call negredo.
I'm trying to work with that right now, understanding through cycles and what a positive charge is, and how to be on one. And halfway to the finish line, I'm almost 50 now. It's like, God, it's like my mom says, you just start getting the lick of things, and then your body's like giving up on you, but I'm not going to really buy into that right now. I feel like what I've put myself through on this earth, my body's doing great, dude. I just have a regular amount of suffering. My partner at all.
Man,
but
I outrun my kids and grandkids all the time. I go up and down a mountain all day.
Yeah, you got grandkids, dude. That's beautiful. Hang out in that love. Another thing about being married again new is like I fell in love just in time to watch it all burn. What the fuck, But there's a tremendous gift there. I could just be watching it all burn, Love is the thing. Enjoy that. Enjoy your fucking grandkids, dude. Be ready for them to be all
grandkids are the best because with grandkids, I don't know that I was a great parent. I don't think I probably
Every parent does that, dude. Knock it off.
But, I'm an excellent grandpa. And with grandkids, it's so much different. It makes you appreciate where like the Buddhists with their unattached love and all that come from. So with grandkids, you're just damn happy to see them and just delighted. And, it doesn't matter that they got a D in school. You're like, yeah, I wish you would have got a better grade. You should try harder. But you don't get all butthurt about it and freak out and everything else. You're just like, it's not my fucking job. Like, so just really enjoy it.
And you don't have to change the diapers either. So.
Exactly.
Go with your joy. Go with what lights you up. Whoever's listening, man, wherever you find that, just drink up as much of that as you can to keep your just to like keep with your stick-to-itiveness on it. It gets daunting out here. It gets daunting.
Keep your head and keep your root.
Yeah. I find doing stuff like this also extremely therapeutic. Just knowing that there are like-minded, spirited people from all walks of life. That
I would imagine that increases the probability of synchronicity at an exponential rate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Exponential, you can actually put an exact figure to it. It always expands Fibonacci, which is definitely exponential, boom, boom, in leaps.
But even a Fibonacci spiral, it all has ebbs and flows, right? We go through, for instance, let's say you've got a group of like-minded thinkers that come together and we're having these kind of conversations. Your one conversation is never going to be as great as another one. They're all going to contain different information, yet nuggets of truth can be found in everything. Thinking about it synchronistically, Ben and I shouldn't have met, honestly, and we couldn't have met unless this horrifying technologies had been built, and I wouldn't be talking to you guys unless we were able to hide behind the power of whatever this horrifying social media substructure they've built is.
Pandora's box.
It is Pandora's box. It's But
Here to tell you, but he asks everybody.
the good news is that this horrifying technology has allowed this type of information to spread exponentially. Like Ben was saying, information is one of the most Fibonacci spiral things you could probably ever look at, because it ends up taking a life of its own. It's going to morph, it's going to evolve, and more truth is going to be revealed. More of the chaff is going to get burned out, and the spiral is going to get wider and wider and wider and wider and encompass more minds. And
if you switch that into a 3D, you can see that shit's a tornado.
It's a tortoise.
You know, it's
Smokes. Holy smoke.
That's that's absolutely why you see purges like the last one with 800 different pages. I briefly wrote for The Nation in 2008, and I became acutely aware almost immediately that they did not want to hear about any other candidates other than Obama and Hillary Clinton.
Yep, right.
And when I came on because I wanted to write about Dennis Kucinich. I thought that little leprechaun motherfucker was at least had an opportunity to, I don't know, to be slightly more representative.
Sure.
I suppose. I had not voted for either major party in a presidential election. I still haven't. But I wanted to get my words out, and it looked like it would be a great way. Join the Nation blog team 2008, go cover events, fucking get your shit out there. Like, hell yeah. Dude, sign me up. Chris motherfucking Hayes was my boss.
Oh my God, have you seen this guy? Do you know who this is? Oh my God, I bent myself in half laughing when I looked at a picture of dude. It's just the archetypal, what do you even call that?
Smarmy Opie.
Smarmy Opie. That's funny.
So,
he worked for that guy. I laughed so hard.
He was the politics editor at The Nation at the time. This was before he had his MSNBC show. It's actually when he started going on Rachel Maddow's show. I don't know if you know this, but the dude's a giant. He's like almost 7 feet tall, like a legit 6'10".
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big dude.
So
I didn't know. That makes it even more cartoonishly hilarious.
Yes. Yes.
For the Simpsons episode where the really tall guy had the really little car.
Oh yeah.
March through town. Do you know what I'm talking about, Claude?
I got you.
Okay. Like that kind of, but with
Simpsons.
Yeah. So I didn't interact with him much. We're in the same room a few times for meetings, but I started to rebel, as it were, with my content. They axed Kucinich in the January Iowa, right after Iowa. Like they left him for dead. And I'm like, fuck, I guess I'll write about John Edwards then, because I didn't like, I knew that I knew that Hillary Clinton was just fucking terrible. Like I was fucking paying attention in the 90s. I was aware.
Like pretty sure she's the Antichrist in some way, shape, or form.
And I remember hearing Obama's speech at the 2004 convention. The there's not a red.
How fucking lucky did that guy get, right?
So
after little Georgie was president, all he had to do was say, "I'm not George Bush."
So he clerked in Henry Kissinger's law firm.
What?
Yeah.
It's funny how it all ties together, isn't it?
For
right after Harvard, his first clerking gig.
Oh my God! Dude, I've got a bunch of Cambodian friends. Like, that dude is the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, word. So we're taking a long
But
walk.
okay,
to
my whole point
Luciferian
with this
run
was
the
working
world.
for the nation.
We're
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
He got me canned.
That's him. He brought that to me.
What?
Luciferian pedophiles rule the world.
Oh,
but
that's-
we're on the slow stroll right now.
That's the thing with every geopolitical conspiracy is that no matter where you start with it, it always ends at Luciferian pedophiles rule the world.
Well, the whole thing is that's the easy ones to control because, you know, that's why those people are the ones that get promoted and picked and everything because they have that control of them. You know,
Isn't it funny how that's also the most polarizing subject?
We got
So let me get back to this
Straight
thing.
line.
Is that the more that I saw the fix was in, and it really was a short period of time from like January 15th to March 15th.
it took you like 3 months to figure this out, huh? You're like, nah, I'm out.
that
Shekel,
Barack
yes, sir.
Obama was the guy. Like it was
weaponized black. Nope.
weaponized blackness. It was
Yes.
it was when I saw that Citigroup in particular was like guiding this guy, and that everyone that he was surrounding himself with was either loyal to like just as fucking deep state as you can possibly get, entrenched military industrial complex, fucking when the money and that power was concentrating around him and paying lip service to Hillary Clinton,
Right.
she started to lash out. That's when the whole birth certificate thing leaked out, was in those months.
Right.
Right after or right before Super Tuesday, that he might be Kenyan, you know, maybe he's not from here. That was David Brock that was responsible for that. When I saw that the fix was in, I wrote an article that never got published, got me fired, and got me scrubbed from the internet entirely for a while. And the article was
Wow.
Obama, Reagan with a tan.
And he was invited.
Oh my God.
Invited to become successful elsewhere. On that note,
And the crux of my argument was that he was going to expand the empire. Reagan actually said, "I dream of a world in which there are no nukes." When Obama went and talked to fucking AIPAC, he was like, "Yeah, so we're going to stabilize our nuclear inventory and pursue non-nuclear options like drone striking the fuck out of the planet."
Yeah, like out of everybody.
So I'm gonna turn 7 additional countries in the Middle East into 500,000 old desert golf courses.
Yeah.
so it's interesting listening to people talk about what they think is going on with drone strikes. Well, the absolute facts of what's going on with drone strikes, but also what else they're doing in a more seemingly benign way. This man from NASA confirms that there are, and it's probably already known to gentlemen such as yourself, that there are drones, miniatures. They are designed specifically to blend into their environment, and that's where I got him to kind of go. I got him excited. I said, "What do you know about these particular drones?" And they were carpenter
ants,
wasps or mosquitoes, something that is particular to a place in New Mexico. And he goes, "Yeah, those ones are from New Mexico." Like right as I showed him the picture, and then he like drew back because he got excited. And because usually this gentleman, like you can see him working
wow.
like he goes through it all in his mind, because in his tenure for NASA, we would imagine that he has signed a stack of documents, like probably about yay thick over the years, literally with his life on the line, as is described by John Perkins from Economic Hitman.
People don't realize what those disclosure agreements, how life-ending those are.
Look at your fine print when you sign to get your new cell phone. It
Right.
tells you in the fine print that the 5G is bad for you. So it tells you.
Reading manual about vacuum.
What did you find on Obama and Kissinger? I saw you typing right away, because I'm 99% sure that the person who stakes his reputation on that was getting it from InfoWars back in the day.
Well, and we know that Hillary was buddies with Kissinger.
Oh, she bragged about it.
Yeah, she would go on about freaking, like, dude, that guy fucking, like,
my good friend and mentor.
Yeah.
Kissinger.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I type in Obama and Kissinger on Google. The first article that comes up, amazingly, is from The Nation. And it says...
Of course.
And the headline is, the Obama administration just granted Henry Kissinger a Distinguished Public Service Award.
Oh.
It's more warmongers polishing their peace prize.
Right.
What the fuck?
Right.
Just,
yeah, both those guys
that.
have Nobel Peace Prizes.
I know. That it's just mind-boggling. Two of the biggest warmongers ever.
My theory is that irony died when that weasel got stuck inside the Large Hadron Collider back in 2012 and fucking shut it down. Like, irony officially died that day.
No kidding, right?
Well,
yeah, the things they've gotten so blatant about things, the people that are asleep shock me. Because they've gotten so blatant, like, you have to purposely be trying. Like, you've really got to be, this is the definition of fucking ignorance. You've got to be trying not to know. You are an ignorant wretch.
Well, isn't that the point of the NPC meme and all of that? You know, people can't think for themselves and they only digest what they're told. Oh, Henry Kissinger's a saint. George Soros is a saint. Obama's a saint. Trump is a saint.
Interrupted Kissinger and fucking blew his game up and we're screaming war criminal right in his face.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Fucking thing. I am all for that. I am.
Well, absolutely. He should never, ever get respect ever on any platform. Any respect, human respect. That guy is directly responsible for so many deaths.
Yeah.
You know, for no reason.
Well, for personal power and increase of
empire. Yeah.
Of the hoarder.
Yeah, honestly, in my opinion, the respect that guy should get is he should be freaking basically freaking thrown into a pit that everybody gets to piss into until the son bitch drowns.
Yes.
What you do is you put him in
the
one
wind
of those...
just kicked up, dude. The wind.
You put him in one of those...
Nature said, I like it.
That's let my hair down.
Put him in
I gotta ask how you reconcile this, though. Because the Trump administration...
One Cambodian a day, come in and fight him.
Yes. Yes.
How do you reconcile what's happening in the Trump cabinet right now, though? Like, John Bolton is now the... he's a warmonger, too.
Most of his administration is now packed with Bush-era neocons, Karl Rove's permanent Republican majority that he bragged about back in 2004. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court judge, was handpicked out of a law firm where he wasn't doing shit by Karl Rove and given a federal judge appointee, given a federal judiciary spot. Like, Bolton is in there. Bolton's entire staff that now spreads outside of Homeland and into all the fucking intelligence networks. All of those guys, fucking Gina Haspel, like they're all Bush-era neocons, and I really think that this goes back to what I was saying about from 80 on.
I agree with that. Well, and actually, it was getting set up before 80 because we know Nixon was Prescott Bush's boy.
Yeah.
They were putting the pieces into place for the things called a.
And HW was running the CIA at the time.
Yes.
So you've got almost 50 solid uninterrupted years of the head of the CIA and everything that apparatus brings to bear in charge of every aspect of the country. So
which basically is they're the only people, they have freedom to do whatever the fuck they want.
And now they're in all of the key spots in Trump's administration.
So the point being, they're all wolves in sheep's clothing. It doesn't matter whether you're voting Republican or Democrat. It's the same team. It's the same team. It's the same people. Yeah. They may be wearing a different color uniform, but it's the same people. They all have the same friends. They all run in the same circles. They all answer to the same people.
They're all getting paid at the end of the day, just like wrestling. Those guys don't hate each other. That's to draw people into the drama. And then they all go back and have a beer and freaking cash their checks and talk about what idiots all the freaking people out in the damn arena were.
This amazes me that more people didn't pick up on this shit. But even like 10, 12 years ago, fucking Jon Stewart would say, oh yeah, after this I go out and have a beer with Bill O'Reilly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, he would say it on his show. And people are like, oh, isn't that nice? They get along. Motherfucker, you're being sold.
Colluded.
Yeah, like.
Well, and they call that civilization. Oh, you have to compromise. You're compromising morals, motherfucker.
Exactly.
Grow a spine.
Well, Steve, you said it yourself. They do these purges because people like us are telling other people this is what's going on. Trump was at Hillary's daughter's wedding. Come the fuck on. They don't like that. It goes against their narrative of left versus right. They can't have us talking. They can't have people talking about these things because it wakes people up to, oh, maybe these people really don't have my best interests in mind. Maybe I should work on myself.
If they are on the same team, who is on the opposite team? Now let me think. Who's the one suffering and who's benefiting?
Why it's so important to misidentify the left. The Democrats are a center-right party for people who give a pass to war crimes but have a penchant for knitted hats.
I don't even honestly see where they're to the left at all. I don't think where they're even center-right. They're just flat right. Honestly, I think Democrats are more handicapping to people than Republicans are. Like,
preaching to the choir here. Preaching to the choir.
What Democrats are the stopping block for a labor movement.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what Bernie Sanders.
Damn straight. Not just Bernie. Fucking who was that back in the 80s that they did that to? Who's the guy that they got it from South Dakota? Shit.
Fucking McGovern.
Yeah, McGovern. They did it to McGovern. Anytime a real candidate comes up that the people like, the Democrats shut that person down. Not the party, they never make it to the main stage.
Bow ties. Bean pies and bow ties come in sideways and just assassinate that.
And people legitimately believe that they're some kind of left party. They're personal. Republicans are honest when they talk about, we're here for the money.
Yes.
We're going to cut your taxes. We're going to privatize everything. That's what we're about. We're gonna fucking do it. We're gonna lift regulations on everything. We don't give a fuck what goes in your water supply. We've got water to sell you.
Well, exactly.
One of my favorite things to watch is Republican talking points from the 1990s. And I'm sure you've seen these videos of Dianne Feinstein talking about immigration and Hillary Clinton talking about immigration. Now Trump in 2018 starts saying the same thing, and suddenly he's a racist. And that's the point. They flip the script constantly, over and over. Every election cycle, you'll see talking points from the other side being represented as conservative, talking points from liberalism being represented as conservative, or conservative to liberalism, and they flip-flop back and forth because it's all the same coin. You know, and it's the fucking coin from Two-Face and Batman. You flip it, heads on both sides.
There's
Riddler,
one corporate party in the United States.
Exactly. That's the problem. There's not a party that's not going to screw us. It's like, oh, we get screwed here, or we get screwed here. Yay!
Well, if management is making 100% of the decisions, workers are cut out of that equation entirely, and management is going to do what's best for management, regardless of how it affects the workers up into a point. And then there's either got to be an enormous distraction, like a war or a 9/11 or fucking a really terrible hurricane response that just devastates an entire community and shuts down any kind of notion that, hey, maybe there really are more of us than there are of them, and they're stealing from us in broad daylight now because they've got us so divided and so distracted that we're going to fight over this talking point or that talking point or this color or that color, that we're letting them steal.
Yes.
And not only that, but we're helping them by carrying on the division and hanging out on Facebook and calling people Nazis, or hanging out on Facebook and calling people fucking shit libs all day. Like,
that's exactly. That's my favorite one. Like, so many people that are on the Trump one, they're like, well, I'm just talking about what the problem is now. No, you're also throwing your support to somebody that's also going to be a problem. I hated that Hunger Games series till at the end when she turned around and killed the leader of the resistance, also who was corrupt as fuck. I was like, yes.
Just all power structures. But see, it's my belief that you can look at all of this from an esoteric standpoint. Consider the Hermetic principles of rhythm and polarity and even gender. Everything has poles. You're polarized either left or right. They don't want you in the center. Everything has rhythm. The universe has rhythm, so they flip the script into a rhythmic state every election cycle. They even call it a cycle, which is rhythm, right?
And it's got to flip back and forth, or else we'll end up losing their balance, and we'll change things.
Exactly, and then they use the law of gender by calling us left or right, male or female, and then they flip what those particular meanings are, right? They either want you believing in handouts for everybody, which is completely etheric, or they want you believing in labor, which is, you know, the dense, I'm building this, it's fehu, I'm doing this for myself, or if you're conservative, you're very much for spending or smaller government, whatever it is. That's Govig, and it flips back and forth, and it's this constant rhythm and this constant cycle, and they put people in these positions of power that can propagate this rhythmic cycle and keep it going and like Ben was saying earlier, it's that Fibonacci spiral, and it gets wider and wider and wider, and that's how empire is built. You can't build empire without cycle. You can't build empire without keeping people polarized to one thought process or another.
Oh, and then you can also, they just denied 99% federal funding for the Hurricane Michael. And I don't want to go too much on Florida because Puerto Rico is still living that nightmare. You know, we have events going on that produce 2 million climate refugees at a time, which is something that isn't widely talked about, but I've been thinking about it lately, and I've thought about it a lot over life, but it's getting really real out here. And I was just, God, I don't like to imagine what it would be like if we saw 2 million refugees from, say, LA because, say, they simply ran out of water, not to mention all the other things they're teetering on right now down there, you know.
That'll never happen, though. It'll never happen. This is the situation they're purposely setting up. That's why they're depleting our water reserves to feed LA. Because then us self-sufficient people, we're fucked.
To go to the city where the water is.
Right, they want you in the city. Oh, well, consider California, a perfect example for this. Consider what Nestle has done in California. Yeah. Nestle is a fucking horrible company. The CEO came right out and said, water is not a basic human right.
Right.
They've bought up all the natural reserves, et cetera, all through California. I'm sure it's probably going on in other states as well.
Yeah, they'll never let LA actually go to crap. I mean, if they do, then they're going to bomb it. But they are just gonna. But until then, they will make us suffer. That's why the fires around in the upper areas, you know, and hitting us. They're trying to push everybody. Like, look at Reading right now. All these people just got a bunch of insurance money for their houses. You can't buy a house in Reading right now. You couldn't buy a house to save your damn life because Reading, you know, a bunch of houses burned. Well, all those people, where are they going to go? They're not going to go out in the country. They're going to move their ass down to the bay. Yeah. You know, or down
so what we're talking about is microcosm versus macrocosm. You know, on the macro, you've got the people in charge making the decisions, and on the micro, you have people like yourselves and Ben that are completely and utterly affected about this. And in the middle, you've got people, the city dwellers, that are already funneled into these energetic centers, and it's all a quote unquote spell, right? As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we need to be minimized and powerless, basically, for them, because we're too independent.
Because and when you're stuck in traffic, and the way that cities are laid out, it's in at least in my opinion, an energy harvesting system.
Absolutely.
It's a machine built by design to collect all of this negative energy, and
are you going to tell me that's what the machine elves are for right now? To break that shit down? Is that where this is going?
Maybe that's what the mechanical elves are there for. But when so I feel like test ground, to bring it back to what they're doing with the trees and how it's a pilot program. I feel like test ground is as sinister as you can make it. You know, in your head. And if you want to call that a spell or some sort of ritual magic, I'm gonna go ahead and be inclined to agree with that. I don't see a purpose for it outside of that.
Well, it also serves the purpose of making you look incredibly paranoid to the normal people.
Sure.
Right? So, Steve is sitting out there, they're tagging his trees. Oh, it's good for conservation. It's good for the water. It's good for whatever. That's what they're told on the outside. That's what the pamphlet says. That's why they tagged your trees. You don't believe it, therefore you look crazy. Right?
You betcha. And you're not a power that be. That's the other thing that's just horrifying in today's society. Nobody actually does the work themselves or looks at things themselves. So, oh, hey, I got this piece of paper. He's obviously an expert. Listen to him. Yep. You know, like normal people like us, like I'm standing outside looking at it with my own two fucking eyes. What are you talking about? And you got nothing. You know, Bill Nye, guys like Bill Nye, that guy could sit up there and say anything. It doesn't matter that he has no expertise in half the things they have him speak about. You know, he's an engineer. What the fuck? How does he know how a vaccine's made? He doesn't.
Well, you know, my opinion is that people like Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson, all of that is an expanded version of Project Mockingbird. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
See, I tend to feel the exact same way, or in a similar way about guys like Jordan Peterson. Like I have two different thoughts about that. My first thought is that I already had a great dad, and I don't need a surrogate internet dad to help me.
You know how to take care of your own.
Make your damn bed, Steve. Make your bed.
My second thought is that Jordan Peterson does exactly what Neil deGrasse Tyson does and exactly what fucking Elizabeth Warren does on a political level, in that all of the talk is intellectual experiment separated from practical real life experience. Like, Jordan Peterson has never been hungry on the street at 3 o'clock
Absolutely
in the
not.
morning, homeless in Denver, wondering why there's a black dude with a shaved head
There we go.
and a fucking leather jacket on with a fucking giant swastika on it, fucking rocking fucking hate breed and like smashing into people on purpose. Jordan Peterson has never done that. I know that. And I don't know if he
He's
works.
never left his little campus environment where everybody's an intellectual and they all discuss things over their tea and it's all a great idea.
It's not that the core concepts of a lot of it aren't valid, but
Right.
the core concepts of it also aren't anything new. Like, you can pull half of his stuff out of Veda if you want to.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's part of the point, though. I feel like, I consider Jordan Peterson a modern day Platonist or philosopher, whatever you want to call him. But there's a lot of people like that. I consider you the same way, Steve. There's nuggets, and that's a compliment, by the way, because you're spreading information that otherwise is not taught in public school systems, in the indoctrination buildings, right? So it's valid and it's important that people read Jordan Peterson's stuff, I believe, because he's got truth interlaced all throughout.
He definitely has very valid things that he says.
But looking at a guru, every guru will have their own opinion and ideology interlaced with the truth. So you have to be able to weed out the chaff, right? You have to be able to cut it away and say, okay, this is the part of this I'm taking away that I can apply to my own life. Maybe I should make my own bed, to coin his phrase yet again. But that's just good advice, right? That's truth. You fix this one part of your life and it's going to be a chain reaction and allow you to align other parts of your life with this structured reality that you're trying to create, trying to manifest. So you can either be completely etheric and just read what Jordan Peterson is saying and not try to find the truth of it for yourself, to Ben's point, doing the work, or you can approach it from the standpoint, and this is not what's taught in schools, you can approach it from the standpoint of being able to suss out the truth for yourself. No one's really taught to search for the truth anymore. I know I wasn't when I was in high school. You go into biology class, they'll say, does anybody have any questions? Nobody raises their hand.
I had one great teacher that, made all of that different. We talked to...
Well, not all teachers are the same. I think
a handful of different teachers that work and they've worked in different settings. Lindsay, I think
yep.
She's taught on a reservation. I have a friend that is of Mexican descent, and she taught at a school in Watsonville. I don't know if you're familiar with our area, but she changed demographics radically. Went from Watsonville to a super waspy white place in Scotts Valley to teach these people's kids. They were very judgmental of her based on her appearance, and then when they discovered that she spoke several different languages, they changed their tune. But the job that these people do, the ones that are trying to do it right, I just can't do or say enough for them. With the one I just mentioned, she asked for this book that you were interested in to bring to her students in the classroom. What she's
absolutely
forced to teach versus what she believes, and trying to lead these kids around to their own conclusions based on facts.
I can't imagine trying to teach and be cognizant of the bullshit.
I know. Yeah, trying to weed that out. But to see the thing is they do the same thing to teachers that they do to people that spread what they call wrongthink.
Yeah.
They don't want people saying, well, is that guy actually a Nazi, or is he speaking some truth? Is that guy actually, a Bernie Sanders-ite, or is he speaking a little bit of truth in there too? You start you start dropping those little nuggets of truth in a public domain, which is paid for by tax dollars, that's their money, that's Goveg, they're going to weed you out. If you write a book and you put it up on Amazon and that book contains information that they don't want to get out, they're going to take it off of Amazon. They're going to unpublish your podcast. They're going to take you off of YouTube.
Try to order from publishers if you're out there listening.
All right. Well, it just happens, and that's how that's censorship. That they unpublish your Facebook pages. They purge 800 accounts. It's modern day book burning and modern day control of thought.
Annihilating life.
That's why it's so important to teach your children that how to discern for themselves, and not be completely enamored with one particular individual or thought process or paradigm. Question everything. That's the point of the X-Files, right? So, question everything.
Oh yeah. When is she coming in?
Well, she was going to come at 1. I'd like
Okay.
to have prep time before. I just remembered, like, as I said,
Yeah, we've got someone coming in here in about like 15, 20 minutes. But real quick, I wanna put a couple of headlines through an alchemical process, and I want you to fucking set it on fire and tell me what you think it really means.
Absolutely.
Let me reload here.
man, time just goes by like water.
Yeah,
When you're on that
Okay.
right thing, that's just like,
it's just been an absolute joy. I feel like I'm just talking with I especially see in the background, like you literally could be my neighbors, and we're just sitting there, just like it's just great.
I put that up for you. I was like arranging my yard art. I'm like, yeah, owls,
Okay.
man.
Yes, loved it.
So what's
Loved
up
it.
with the what's up with the
Autumnal.
Saudi with the journalist?
Oh,
Saudi
shit.
Arabia.
Khashoggi.
Is that guy? Is he dead? Is he alive? Did they actually do that?
So my guess is well, that guy's dead for sure.
Okay.
He was going to spring truth off of Saudi Arabia.
Dead chair in a swivel chair.
The fact is we, no matter which, and I was just telling somebody else this, no matter which president it is, we will never, ever go against Saudi Arabia in any way, shape, or form. We are bed partners bigger than shit. Saudi Arabia is the biggest competitor to Iran, who we consistently put in embargo and take their money and take their oil because we don't want them changing the market. Look at last time when they got out from under the embargo, oil prices went from almost where they are now back down to like $2 a gallon. Well, Saudi Arabia will not trade outside of the petrodollar. So if Iran comes in, Iran wants to go in with Russia and
China.
North Korea and China and create a new and quit trading off of the petrodollar, which would tank the petrodollar.
But isn't the Chinese model also based on the petrodollar?
For now. They
now.
Yeah.
Because they have to, because everybody's using it. But if you take Russia, Russia's got the snort, Iran's got the oil, China and North Korea got the manpower. You put together look at everybody else that tries to fight against that. You look at Libya, they came in, they were going to make the dinar. They put together all the North African oil. We went in and turned that into a cesspool,
From looking at it from an esoteric standpoint or alchemical standpoint, I guess you kind of have to look at it from two different sides, casting two different types of spells, doing two different types of alchemy. The United States has been in charge of basically the world's economy for how many decades now?
Both sides of that spell are a distraction because nobody wants you to look at what I just talked about.
Right.
They want you to look at the other two sides of it.
And not realizing it's the same point. But,
yes.
The United States, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like has fulfilled its purpose from a esoteric standpoint. It increased empire, the Roman Empire to the British Empire to the United States empire, because that's literally what it is. We have more army bases, more military bases across the globe than any other country on earth. And why is that? It's empire. It's defensive empire. And changing that geopolitical situation with the United States to put another group in charge scares the bejesus out of the powers that be. So you have this other group saying, okay, we're gonna use this world currency that's no longer based on the petrodollar. It's now based, what they call it, the Silk Road dollar or something like that. They had a for it.
Yeah, so something about the Silk Road. They're restarting the Silk Road.
Right, which is basically from China through the Middle East up through Russia, and they're building pipelines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now consider what Donald Trump did. He goes and he puts sanctions on China. He says, y'all better quit doing this, and it's just a game, and it goes back and forth.
I just read this morning they're talking about reopening the nuclear treaty with Russia is going to be ended, and we're going to start the arms race again.
But look what it does to everyone. It polarizes people into this. What's one of the biggest points of dissension since Donald Trump was elected? Anti-Russia, anti-Russia, anti-Russia.
Yeah.
It becomes ultimately polarizing. When you look at one of my favorite quotes from Obama is when he was debating Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney's asked, well, what's the biggest threat to the United States right now? And he says Russia. And Obama looks at him and says, the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. Yeah. That's ridiculous, man. And now all of a sudden it's a talking point again. So looking at it from that standpoint, it's polarization, like we were talking about earlier. It's funneling of energy all the way back, down to the voter polls. So
my hope is that we can at least get a reboot of Spies Like Us out of it.
Yes.
Out of the whole rebirth of the Cold War and new McCarthyism being spread by Democrats.
But they need that war, because here's a fact: Russia went and paid off their debt to the World Bank, so they are no longer under the World Bank's thumb. They do not owe anybody. Russia's their own money. They got rid of all the GMOs in the country. Yeah. So what's going on with them right now is basically they've paid off all their debt and they've burnt all their crops to the field. So now while their bank account's at zero, which is way better than everybody else's negative, they still don't have money to go forward with. So then you enter this pipeline that runs through Syria that'll go through Russia if it goes Russia's way, which Assad's friendly with them. Yep. Well, now all of a sudden you done filled up their coffers again. So these guys, they not only do not owe money, but now you got full coffers. Oh baby, now we're gonna change some things.
Yeah, I can't have that.
So we gotta run, guys. Fuck, man.
Did you have one more headline?
Let's see.
She doesn't seem like, I think she's early, so maybe we can do one more.
Okay. Who's rigging the 2018 midterms?
I have to ask, does it matter? They're being rigged. Zuckerberg?
A word.
So you got Zuckerberg, you've got Jack Dorsey from Twitter.
To follow that up, when do we grab the pitchforks, man? Because I'm firmly in the heads on pikes and general strikes or nothing fucking happens camp about what it's going to take.
I will come hang out in your camp, sir.
I'll be there.
What an honor!
I am here.
As long as the camp doesn't have the FEMA stamp on it, I'll be there.
Well, no, this is. Do you know what we're talking about right here?
Yeah.
This is when Rome came up against the tribal Germanic people, and all us old farm asses that live like you and I do, they all got together and said, nah, Rome, we ain't gonna put up with your shit. And we're the only ones that kicked Rome's ass.
Well, that's absolutely true, but you got to consider where we're at in 2018, Ben. That Japan never invaded the United States. They said if we invaded the United States during World War II, there's going to be a rifle behind every blade of grass. They
Yes.
know that now. Look at the police state that's been built up around us, and then look at the propaganda that's behind it.
And look at how they're trying to take away gun rights from all of us so bad.
They know, and then you have prime examples of guys, wanting to put heads on pikes, etc., that are, oh, we're going to attack their compound. The FBI has their compound surrounded. That's not the way you fight battle right now. You hide in the power of the ring, and that's how I feel about it. What good is it going to do for Steve to martyr himself? He gets called.
Yeah, we don't need another Ruby Ridge.
Exactly. Well, and that's my point of using the Empire's tools against the Empire itself. And that's why pages get purged, because they know that we know this, and we know that a lot of times words are more powerful than a sword. Because how do you change an ideology? You change an ideology by propagating it.
I'm not suggesting that like you personally is like, fuck it, it's on me. You know?
See, I would never do that too, because all they gotta do is kick me in the back and I fall down.
I'm not suggesting that like 1 or 2 or 10 people are like, fuck it, I believe that what we're all out here trying to do is necessary in increasing the probability of people coming together to find solutions outside of what the official narrative is telling us. That is an adorable fucking dog, man.
Lots of puppies, lots of kittens. That's how we do it too. You gotta just fucking even that shit out with something, man. There it is.
But yeah, we gotta wrap, guys. It has been fucking awesome talking to you.
It was a pleasure, you guys.
Yeah.
Serious.
Thanks for hanging out and shade tree mechanicking with us.
Absolutely. I absolutely look forward to talking to you guys again, and from my perspective, in person. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's only a couple hours. We should make something happen.
I'm seeing it. It's happening. Yeah.
absolutely.
But,
Well,
yeah,
next month we'll all be less busy, right?
Yeah.
Good luck to us all.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, happy
All right, guys.
man. Thank you for coming on the show. Watch Breaking Basic. It airs Saturdays. What time Central?
7 p.m. Central, generally.
Central. So, yeah.
And I caught your episodes. Where did I catch them? Were they on?
Oh,
Usually
yeah.
I'll share them on our Facebook page at Breaking Basic.
I think I found them on Rogue.
Eyes Open.
Oops, my bad.
Yeah, you can find them on the Breaking Basic Facebook page. You can find us in the Eyes Open group. You can find us at breaking-basic.com. And we're working on actually turning it into a podcast right now. We live stream on YouTube on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. I usually
Central.
try to have them Central, yes. And it's just a blast, Ben and I just really enjoy doing it. We really enjoy talking about these subjects that just aren't talked about very much, or they're misrepresented. And I think that's
misrepresented.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Presentation is intentional.
Exactly.
Well,
That's beautiful. Thanks, guys.
It's been a blast. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks.
Sure.
It's so happy to meet you guys.
Cheers, brother.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
That was